Reese Rambles, episode 43. How you all doing, my happy little ramblers? Welcome once more to the Reese Rambles podcast, the official podcast of Control-Alt-Reese. Obviously, I don't suppose I need to state that. But this channel's really grown in the past week or so. So many new subscribers. I started with like 750 or something, and I've gained like over 100 subscribers in a week, which is fantastic. And it's all off the back of some videos that I've been publishing on this channel, some actual proper non-podcast content, which, as I have said publicly, I'm going to kind of start focusing on a bit more. And part of that is working on the setup here and trying to get it looking a bit nicer. There's kind of a very specific kind of look and feel that I'm kind of going for with this, and I think I'm very close. The lighting's still not quite right. One of those videos that I put out, which I will talk about in a second, I did look pretty awful. I'm not quite sure if that was well, it wouldn't have been a hangover because it was midweek, but I don't know if it was a lack of sleep or the fact that I wasn't clean shaven, or but I think it was the lighting. So. Yeah, I bought these little lights that are like colour temperature and colour adjustable, brightness adjustable, little tiny little USB-C rechargeable things. They're really good. I talked about it previously. Had one on top of my camera, but I think comparing that with some of the earlier rambles where I had two lights, one on each side, I think that lighting setup works better. It's a bit softer and a bit more diffused, and that's what I've gone for in this one. But in that firmware update video, I was not looking well at all. But other studio improvements. I've blocked out some more light. I think I mentioned that. Stuff that comes in, I've got the window display here, so that's kind of directly in front of me where I sit recording these. And my solution to that was basically just to pile some more boxes up on top of the shelving. And I've also turned the lighting off for the window display because obviously that kind of reflects some light backwards. And also the second window over that side in the kind of the workshop space, I've blacked that out the same way that I have done with this one behind me. So behind these blinds, which I bought, which weren't big enough and don't block any useful amount of light at all, I've got like blackout curtains that velcro to the window frames, and they block out 100% of light, which is good. It gives me a lot more control. I don't have anything against natural lighting, of course. I'm sure it would be good for my vitamin D levels in these winter months. But for recording, I need stuff to be consistent because I want to keep the camera settings consistent and the lighting setup consistent, and it just makes everything so much easier, so much better for sort of continuity if I've got to record stuff over multiple days, and it also just makes my life easier in editing and stuff like that. So that's why I spend so much time on this stuff. And this kind of desk setup here was kind of a bit of an afterthought, really, when I was kind of getting the studio stuff set up. Obviously, I'm really happy with the main setup with the shelving and stuff in the background, but I wanted something a little bit different to kind of differentiate these kind of offerings, these second channel offerings and stuff. But anyway, yes, I mentioned that I'd put 2 new videos out, so let's have a little talk about those before we get into the meat of the podcast, or the meat alternative of your choice, if that's not your bag. So the first one was a teardown video of the new Atari 2600 Plus. And as mentioned in that video, that was a request from a patron of mine, DBK, a very long time supporter. Shout out to you. I do know this person in real life. I've met them a couple of times, but not sure if they're happy with me sharing their real name. So yes, DBK. They suggested on my Discord server that it would be cool to have a look inside the new controllers and compare them to the original controllers, tear them both down side by side. And I thought, well, if I'm doing that, I may as well do the console as well. So I tore that apart, as you do. So there was the teardown video, which is kind of a companion to my main review video. The review video's done fantastically well. That's done like 10,000 views in a week or so, which is great by my channel's standards. And this one's done 1,200 in 4 days, which is really good by my kind of second channel standards. Used the normal studio setup that I use with the standing desk and everything. Just pointed the camera at the desk and hit record and did this. And the great thing about having this studio space is that it allows me to do a lot more of this kind of off-the-cuff stuff. I can just drive 2 minutes down the road, get in here, hit record, and everything's set up, and I can ramble away to my heart's content. And evidently that's working out quite well, and people are seeing the value in that, which is fantastic to see. And on that note, there was another video that I did. And now this one was a bit of an experiment for me. And if you're watching on YouTube here, you're going to get some reception because I recorded it using this exact setup, and now I'm going to record it again. In fact, you can compare the lighting and stuff actually if you are watching on YouTube, and perhaps see if I've improved it at all today. But yeah, this one was someone pointed me. This was based on a comment that I had on my Atari 2600 Plus review, and one thing that I kept saying in the 2600 Plus review was that there were various sort of software type issues, emulation type issues, but that the firmware is updatable on that console, and Atari can release a new firmware that fixes all of those problems. And someone actually pointed me to a thread on Atari Age, which, yes, indeed, has actually one of the actual developers, Ben from PlayOn, interacting with people and saying, yes, we've got this, and this planned for the next update, and that's what I covered in that video. So that's fantastic to see. And I thought, well, a lot of people aren't regular readers of Atari Age, and people like to consume things in different ways, and perhaps people would like that presented as a video where I just kind of go through the list, talk about what's been confirmed, what's not been confirmed, what's kind of been requested, and my thoughts on that, and how that kind of ties into my review, and how that affects the various issues that people have been reporting. And that video has gone a bit crazy. I mean, it's got approaching 5,000 views now. It's gained 100 subscribers for the channel, well, near enough, and that's crazy for this channel. That's like the biggest video on this channel within a couple of days, which is cool. And I've had a lot of really good feedback in the comments, in Discord, some DMs from people, and also in real life from someone I was just talking to who is a fan of the channel, and was saying that. It was a really good format and a really good way to kind of present that content. And as far as I'm concerned, they're actually quite easy to put together because obviously I read these things, I understand them, I have thoughts on them, I can hit record on the camera and kind of share those and share it in a way that's perhaps a bit better, a better way for people to kind of absorb that information. So I want to do some more of those on kind of current events. There's also a bit more of a cynical explanation, of course, addressing the elephant in the room. This has been massively popular. It has grown the channel. It is a current event that people are looking for information on at the moment. It's a bit clickbaity, but I think it does provide a lot of value. It's not just a hollow husk of a video where I'm just regurgitating stuff that's already out there and not adding anything to it. Certainly what people are telling me anyway. I think for the sake of kind of growing the channel, because I really want to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers. We'd just look at the actual channel analytics themselves. I'm at 875 at the moment, so really not far off at all. A couple of reasons for that. The main one is to get into the partner program, which means that I get control over the ads that appear on the channel. Nowadays, if you're not in the partner program, YouTube will automatically put ads in your videos anyway. But if you are in the partner program, you can actually choose where they appear and all that kind of stuff. And as you can see, I'm really not far off the milestones for that. The main one is the 1,000 subscribers. So if you're watching this or listening to it or on the actual YouTube channel itself and you're not subscribed, I know people always say this and say, 80% of people that watch the videos aren't subscribed. But in my case, I have a very legitimate reason to aim for that. And I'm going to keep doing these videos on current events and stuff and trying to grow this channel. And hopefully, the way I have it planned and the way I have all of this set up, they won't detract from the main channel videos either. So very much looking forward to putting some more of those out there. But doesn't mean the rambles will be going anywhere. And of course, I will be retreading some of those and kind of giving a bit of a summary of those in the weekly rambles, a bit of a roundup of the stuff I've covered on the channel, as well as everything else, much like I'm doing now. So hopefully that makes sense. And let's get on with the first story. So let's just get this one out of the way straight away. It's Grand Theft Auto. Literally everyone's talking about it. Mr. Beast tweeted about it, saying that it had broken his record for the quickest, most viewed video on launch on the whole of the YouTube platform in the history of the platform, which shouldn't come as any surprise to anyone because it is the single biggest gaming franchise in the world. In fact, I'm sure I read somewhere that it was bigger than like any sort of Hollywood movie or anything like that in kind of its lifetime, just as far as kind of gross revenue and stuff is concerned. As usual, I don't have the figures to hand, but and you're going to say, well, Reese, this is coming out in 2 years' time. This is like cutting edge, brand new current gen gaming stuff. But of course, I shouldn't need to remind you that the original Grand Theft Auto came out in 1997, and it was a top-down, 2D game that ran on 486s and stuff. I mean, I've run it on my 486. It's not a great experience, but there were still people, some stragglers using them back then, and it ran on them. And I remember playing that original PC version. I was actually going to I've got it at home. All my PC big box collection is at home, and I just forgot to bring it today. But I do have the original, my original. Indeed, box copy of Grand Theft Auto from 1997, and it's a series that's always stayed with me. I mean, obviously, I had the OG Xbox, kind of in the early 2000s, and went on to GTA 3 and kind of the first Vice City and the 3D ones. GTA 4, I think I played that on the 360. GTA 5, did I play that first on the 360 or? I've definitely got it on the PC now, on my living room gaming PC. Haven't played it for years. Bear in mind, this game's been out for 10 years. The current game in the franchise, which I'm not going to sit here and claim that something 10 years old is retro, but certainly to some people, there are people who will have kind of played it in their kind of early teenage years and tail end of their childhood or whatever, who are adults now, which is it's a bit of a recurring theme on this podcast, but so it's a huge franchise, and it's been around forever. Created by DMA Design, of course, originally, who also gave us Lemmings. So it has a lot of retro pedigree. And I have to say, I don't get excited about many current gen games. Most of the games that I play are kind of boomer shooter remakes of stuff that I've already played 20 odd years ago, but. When I woke up and the trailer had been released, because it had been leaked and they decided that they'd rather people watch the proper version, of course, so they had to release it early, which was very nice for us in the UK, because it was going to be sort of early afternoon time, early morning US time when they were going to release it. I woke up and there it was on YouTube, this trailer. And of course, it looks absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's a series that's always kind of been known for kind of pushing boundaries technically and graphically and stuff like that, and it just looks absolutely stunning, as you would expect from a current gen game, or a game that's going to be out in 2 years' time. And just really looking forward to it. Don't know how my audience feel on the series, but they're good games, they're good fun. So just wanted to acknowledge that, and obviously it's a very long running series. So and one that's obviously, this latest instalment has kind of been hit by a lot of leaks and stuff like that. So it'll be very interesting when it does finally release. But trailer looks good. Obviously, I'll link to that in the usual places, along with all the other stuff that I talk about. But there we go, Grand Theft Auto, the latest instalment in a... I've just committed to doing some maths, haven't I? 1997, 2023. It's old. Speaking of being old, when I was growing up in the early 90s, I had an Atari ST, which is a fact that's probably not passed you by if you're a regular viewer of the channel. And one of my favourite games on the ST was Llamatron, which was a parody of Robotron, which I actually didn't know at the time. I was actually quite a bit older when I discovered that it was based on another game. I was very, very young, but... it's a twin stick shooter. I'm sure you're probably familiar with the format, and on the ST at least, you could you set your direction of fire by holding down the fire button and kind of move around. It was difficult, but how else would you have achieved that? But I do remember. I remember because it didn't have much going on in my life as a child. I do remember reading all like the documentation and stuff that came with it. I mean, it came on like a shareware. It was just a floppy disk on its own, but obviously there was documentation and stuff on the disk, and like the title screens and stuff. And I remember reading about it and reading about how you could send money to some guy in Wales, and all of that kind of thing if you enjoyed the game, and thinking that it was a bit of a bizarre concept. But that guy was Jeff Minter, and I don't think I realised at the time just how kind of prolific he was, and just how many games he'd released on the 8-bit platforms and the rest of it. Then I remember playing. It was one of the Mutant Camels games. There was Attack of the Mutant Camels and Revenge of the Mutant Camels, wasn't there? It may have been Revenge. I remember that coming out. That was on an ST format cover disc. That was a demo, and again, you could have to, you could send off to this guy, and get the full version of the game. And I remember that issue also having an interview with him in it. So yeah, I mean, Jeff Minter was a part of my childhood, and I'm sure he was a part of many of my viewers and listeners' childhoods as well. So yeah, this week it was very, very interesting when, completely out of the blue, but very welcome, it was announced that Digital Eclipse, who did the Atari 50th anniversary thing, have used that same platform to make a kind of a digital shrine to Jeff Minter that will be available to buy next year. And it's a collection of... it's called Llamasoft, the Jeff Minter story. And much in the same vein as the Atari 50 thing, it's a collection of games from over the years, and like a interactive encyclopedia type thing with sort of facts and stories and things, and also interviews and sort of historical footage. And it's like a real real kind of collection, curated collection of Llamasoft history, which is really cool. So and it covers a really sort of broad range of his history as well. So obviously, I've got the list of games here. We've got Sinclair ZX81 games, 3D, Centipede. I'm not familiar with those. Obviously, that was way before my time. His VIC-20 games, Abductor, Andy's Attack, D-Flex 5, Grid Runner, obviously, kind of 10. I think that one came out on a few different platforms. Hellgate, Laser Zone, Matrix, Grid Runner 2, Metagalactic Llamas Battle at the Edge of Time, Ratman. It's going to be so cool discovering all of these games, because obviously it would be fun to kind of explore Llamasoft's back catalogue, but you've got to set up emulators for different systems, because he was so prolific and worked on so many different games across so many different kind of platforms over the years. Having it all in one place, and you can just pick from a menu and hit a button and have all the controls kind of normalised and standardised, and it's going to be great. Got his Commodore 64 games. That's perhaps what he's probably best known for. Attack of the Mutant Camels, of course, Grid Runner, Battlix, and Ancipital. Hellgate, Hover Bother. That's another very well known one. I think I've got the Atari 8-bit version of that somewhere. Laser Zone, Mama Llama. Of course, I will link to this in the usual places. I shouldn't go through and read every single one of them. Revenge of the Mutant Camels 1 and 2, Sheep in Space, Void Runner. His Spectrum games are on there as well. 4 of those: City Bomb, Headbangers Heaven, Rocks 3, Super D-Flex. There's so many games that I hadn't even heard of. The Atari 8-bit version of Attack of the Mutant Camels and Hover Bother. So a couple of duplicates, but of course they are, they are unique in their own ways on those unique platforms. So it's good that the various different versions are included. There's a Konix multi-system game. Now, if you're not familiar with the Konix multi-system, this was like a really wacky kind of far out console thing that had it was like a chair that you sat in, and it was like this full interactive experience and stuff. But really not going to do it justice. But well worth looking into. But the Konix multi-system, of course, was developed by a company called Flare Technology, who went on to develop the Atari Panther, which wasn't released, but is quite a well-known story and one that I've covered on my channel. And after that, the Jaguar. So it has Atari Jaguar DNA in it. And of course, Jeff went on to release Tempest 2000 on the Jaguar as well. And a big Atari fan. He worked very closely with Atari in kind of the late 80s, early 90s. And on that note, obviously the Atari ST stuff, Llamatron, which I mentioned, it's going to be cool being able to play that on like a modern gamepad with like the proper twin sticks and stuff. I think it would really, make the most of that game. Revenge of the Mutant Camels, which I mentioned, I can finally get to play the full version of that without having to post a check off to a random guy in Wales. And Super Grid Runner, which I haven't played, but it would be very cool to check out. And there's also Grid Runner Remastered, which is like a new take on the Grid Runner formula, a new version of that game. So completely kind of out of the blue, really, this collection. I wasn't expecting this at all. And the other thing that I kind of wanted to mention related to this is there was a documentary. There's a documentary that I've been following for years called Heart of Neon, which is trying to dig up like the complete history of Llamasoft and Jeff Minter. And it's the project of a guy called Paul Doherty. And he's been digging up all this historical footage and historical, documentation and interviews and stuff like that. And obviously interviewing Jeff himself and kind of going through his own archive of stuff that he's built up over the years. And he's actually directly involved with this, with Digital Eclipse. He's actually working very closely with them to provide all of the historical materials and stuff, which is fantastic to see. Obviously, it'd be great if the Heart of Neon documentary does eventually come out. But using all the stuff that he's been gathering over the years, over many, many years, to put together an interactive museum like this is just it's a really cool use of those kind of resources, I think. So really looking forward to this one. And as mentioned, it runs on the same platform as Atari 50. So one thing that I'm going to tie into this, and I didn't really want to do this as a separate story because it's just a minor update. But if you do own the Atari 50 collection on any of the various platforms that it came out on, the Switch, the PS5, the PS4, the PC, which is what I have it on, Xbox and all of that kind of stuff, you're going to be getting 12 new games for free in time for Christmas, which is fantastic, which they're calling the Holiday Content Update. And so the list of games that's been announced, there's Adventure 2, which is a homebrew game, Bowling, Double Dunk, Maze Craze, Miniature Golf, Moto Rodeo, Aquaventure, Save Mary, Super Football, Return to Haunted House, which is a homebrew game, Circus Atari, and Warbirds, and basically they're all Atari 2600 games, with the exception of Warbirds, of course, which was on the links. And they're not. I don't think any of those games particularly stand out to me. Of course, it's great to have more games to play as part of that collection, and the fact that they're free is even better. None that particularly stand out to me, I think. But always welcome. It'd be interesting to check out those kind of homebrew sequels. Obviously, we've got Return to Haunted House. Haunted House was part of the original collection. Fantastic game. And there was a reimagined version of that as well, which was a lot of fun. And so cool to have a kind of a semi-official sequel to that. And Adventure 2 as well. Obviously, Adventure being kind of one of those iconic Atari 2600 titles. So more content, which is always good. And again, this is I'll tell you what, let's switch back to the big view for this. This is something that I keep returning to over and over again in these updates and in these videos and stuff that I'm doing on my channel. But it's starting to scare me just how much good stuff the new Atari are doing. And that, I mean, you might look at me and think, well, Rhys, you're a massive Atari fanboy. Of course you'd say that. But like the crypto stuff and the hotel stuff and all of that stuff, it was like, what on earth are you doing like with this brand? And, you're trying to flog us the same old games over and over again. I appreciate this is a part of that, but they're making so many good moves just lately with the 2600 Plus and with this collection. And, of course, Digital Eclipse doing the Jeff Minter thing. Digital Eclipse is part of Atari now. I guess it was probably started, I think they were only acquired this year, so it's probably started before that. But, they're making some scarily good moves just lately, and definitely one to watch. And I guess that's probably reflected in how much I'm kind of covering them on my channel as well. So watch out for the Jeff Minter thing, which is going to drop next year. I don't think a specific date has been announced for that. I don't have one in my notes, but that's hardly surprising, is it? But and of course those 12 new games for the Atari 50 collection, which if you have on your console or PC and it is online, it's probably already downloaded and installed, ready for you to check out. They've also announced, actually, one more thing, they've also announced as a part of this that they are going to be adding more content in the future, including more interviews and like documentary type content as well to that collection. And I guess that's probably going to be the case with the Jeff Minter thing, and they're probably going to use this same platform for various other things as well. And it's a good platform. I like it. It's good. It's all good. So, as at the time of recording, it was the Game Awards yesterday, which is something that a lot of people don't really seem to sort of care about or pay much attention to. It's very kind of big and very mainstream, and not something that I've really paid much mind to myself. But there was one huge announcement that came out of this, which is from another company that was a very big part of my childhood. I mean, when I was a kid, I had the Mega Drive. And then I got a second-hand, like, hand-me-down Game Gear from my cousins at one point. And then when the Dreamcast was big, kind of in the later sort of dying throes of the Dreamcast, I got one of those as well. And it's Sega, of course. And completely out of the blue at the Game Awards, they have announced a load of remakes for a load of their classic titles. And this is exciting stuff. I mean, this is some of my favourite games of all time. We've got a new Jet Set Radio coming. If you remember the original Jet Set Radio on the Dreamcast, and of course Jet Set Radio Future on the Xbox, the original Xbox, one of my favourite games on the original Xbox. And we've got new Streets of Rage, we've got new Golden Axe, we've got new Shinobi, and new Crazy Taxi, which is fantastic. Obviously, there was the original Crazy Taxi, the arcade game, and on the Dreamcast. And it also came out on the Xbox as well. I think it's had a couple of sequels. I don't think I've ever checked out the sequels to Crazy Taxi, but a random announcement out of the blue. This was another one that I was kind of thinking of maybe doing another one of these short videos on, but there wasn't really enough content there to kind of justify that. So I thought I would just give it a bit of a shout out in in this week's ramble. But new Jet Set Radio, that is very exciting. Shinobi, not a series I'm really all that familiar with, but definitely interested in potentially checking that one out. Golden Axe, of course, classic, absolute classic, and that looked like it was. I mean, there was only a very brief flash of it in the trailer, but it looked like it was like a new kind of 3D fighting type format. And of course, new Crazy Taxi, which is always welcome. So this was a bit out of the blue, but these are all like huge titles, and they're all like huge sequels, huge current gen sequels to these long running series. So evidently a huge amount of work going into this, and very much looking forward to discovering discovering any sort of future developments on this. All it's basically said is to follow their social media. I don't think there's any release dates or anything for this yet. It's just very much a kind of early stages reveal trailer, but another thing that's very welcome this week. So another successful ramble draws to a close, and I think it has been successful. I've been quite pleased with how this one's come together. Whether I'll still be pleased with it when I actually edit it and put it all together ready for release, I'm not quite sure, but it feels good. But hey, maybe it just feels good because it's a Friday. Who knows? But yes, so I'll leave you with a closing thought that I was something that I've mentioned to Catherine a few times, my wife, and. This has all come about because her place of work and a place where I work as well as a contractor is opposite a place that makes pipes and tubes, and they have this big like what do you call it, forecourt? I don't know what you call it, but they've got the factory, and then they've got like this big kind of fenced off area in front of the factory. Where they keep these big piles of pipes and reels and things like that. And one question that always comes up, and I think it's getting on her nerves now how many times I've asked her, so I'm going to throw this one out to the Reese Rambles community and finally get the definitive answer. What is the difference between a pipe and a tube? And the sign out the front has the company name on, and it says, pipes and tubes, and they have things in this kind of area that I would describe as pipes and tubes. Some of them are on reels. Are they pipes? And we discussed this, and I kind of thought, well, maybe a tube is like something that's kind of straight and long, but and like a pipe comes on a reel. But then you think like plumbing pipes, like copper pipes. That's a pipe. You don't call it a tube, but that's long and straight and rigid. And of course you get tubes that are flexible and tubes that are rigid and pipes that are flexible. So what is the difference between a pipe and a tube? Let me know. I appreciate I've said the word tube many times now, and I'm sure that's probably very amusing to my American listeners, as it always is. So yes, I will see you all same time next week here on YouTube. Thank you very much for listening. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments on all of that stuff. And all the links and things will be in the usual places. Have a wonderful weekend, and I shall see you same time next week.